Well, folks, human survival has always been linked to food and providing a constant source of food, which is why the first human settlements appeared around areas with fruitful vegetation or land suitable for agriculture. Additionally, man has been since the beginning of time a predator, a hunter needing animal protein to exist. Today, things are different. The man has evolved either into the raw vegan sapiens because the fried chicken gets stuck in the braces screws, or into the less sapiens kebab with everything plus unfiltered beer. In today's video, we'll talk about hunger, what triggers it, why we crave, and what are they good for, these two hormones that you just heard about and didn't get the chance to chew on them, so to speak. Leptin and Ghrelin, Hansel and Gretel, Pif and Hercules, Laurel and Hardy. Before we move on, don't forget to press the notification bell icon and select the first option, the one with all notifications, otherwise you do not remain subscribed to the channel, without which the ranking of YouTube vlogs would not have an ending. Medicine Explained with Radu. We reach this incredible level of self-sufficiency in evolution, and the world is governed, if you will, by the biggest and the most painful paradox. The fact that there are obesity and obesity-related deaths, scientific congresses and clinical studies funded by hundreds of millions of dollars dedicated to obesity and obesity treatment, as opposed to hunger, lack of drinking water and lack of basic food resources in certain regions of human civilization, such as in Africa. All of these are contradictory to huge quantities of food thrown away, brought naked, or simply left to spoil in other parts of the so-called evolved societies. There are some historical considerations, if you will, that we cannot overlook before explaining what is the hunger, lust and hormones. There are both a psychological and a biological dimension. I've said it before in my lectures that food is the oldest and apparently an effective anxiolytic known to man. When enough fruit was harvested, sufficient game was hunted and stored in the cave, the prehistoric man was relaxed because he had ensured his survival by having food stocks. This state of tranquility, when we have a full fridge, when we have enough food and we are satiated, has been kept to this day somehow encoded in our human DNA, and so today, without realizing it, we are looking for food in pressing, stressful situation because we know in our subconscious mind that we will calm down after eating. That's why we get to eat chaotically, randomly, pointless, forgetting that we are eating to survive and we're not supposed to live for eating. This is the psychological dimension. But all these habits had not always been this way. People didn't used to be so hungry. The problem is not we don't know the theory, the problem is that we ignore it systematically. Well, it is true, the poor prehistorical people, or those who have lived sad black periods of human existence, ate when they got the chance and needed the mechanism of the human body to make reserves in order to survive long periods of drastic food restrictions. This is the biological dimension of hunger. The fact that throughout our existence the human metabolism has learned this ability to make reserves, to store excess food, to prepare for the periods when the food will no longer be available, for the moment when it will suffer from hunger. This is why it is very difficult to maintain a diet, but it's even harder to maintain your low weight following a diet, restrictive or not. Because your entire body will work to restore the lost reserves, fearing a new period of food crisis. There are dozens of studies in this matter conducted by researchers who have reached the molecular level and have shown that the body builds its defense mechanism over time, including the increasing number of receptors for ghrelin, the hunger hormone, the hormone of the need to eat. We will immediately explain what it means because not everybody is familiar with the terms of receptors and hormones. Our organs communicate with the brain and especially with each other by two methods: the nervous system and the endocrine system, the glands that produce hormones. Both the nervous system and the hormonal system, endocrine as I said, are not independent systems separated. They are complementary systems, helping and completing each other's actions. Adrenaline, for example, is a hormone with an accelerating effect on cardiovascular and the respiratory system. Its presence dilates the bronchi to get more air, causes the heart to pump more blood and contracts the blood vessel for the blood to circulate faster. It is secreted when our brain signals that we are in danger, so we need to run or fight. fight or flight. So in this case, both the nervous and the endocrine system work together to perform certain functions. The heart or lungs have no idea that there is danger nearby. They need this signal, the adrenaline. Adrenaline affects the heart and the lungs because they sense its increased presence in the blood, because they are equipped with adrenaline receptors. Imagine that if the hormone, in our case adrenaline, would be a key, the receptors would be the locks suitable for that specific key and only for it. Of course, from a biochemical point of view, receptors are also substances located on the surface of the heart or lung cells that, once coupled with adrenaline, give the appropriate signal inside the cell, which in our case is to arms, my brothers. Now that we have gone through hormones and receptors, let's go back to our dishes, so to speak, and normally to ghrelin. Ghrelin was discovered in 1999 and is a hormone secreted by the stomach. The only thing it does is to transmit into the brain, the hypothalamus more precisely, that the stomach is empty, initiating the feeling, the sensation of hunger. Stomach cells secrete this hormone after a certain time, after a certain habit, because they take care that we don't, well, starve to death. I know it sounds crazy, but it's perfectly true. This hunger sensation is the sensation that appears in the brain, not the stomach. The perception that the stomach is empty would not exist unless the brain would be told by, well, the stomach that it is empty. Here intervenes ghrelin and does this little thing, telling the brain that the stomach is empty. But so little is enough that when his secretion is imbalanced, we eat chaotically and in excess, precisely because we have the impression that our stomach is empty all the time. Let's take this example inspired by a lecture from the American nutritionist Jason Fung that I really like. Before this abundance of food marketing and before abandoning any logic in human nutrition throughout the world actually, you would sit down at the table with the family and eat what was on your plate. If you didn't eat everything on the plate, you would automatically hear the phrase, "Don't ask me for more food in 2 hours because I will not give you any more." This attitude was correct. If you are hungry after eating, it means that you have not eaten enough. The key is not going to the fridge to fill up, but to learn your lesson and take care the next time to properly calibrate your meal. The ghrelin hormone is secreted when the stomach is empty and no longer secreted if there's food in the stomach. When ghrelin is low, we feel satiated. But not all foods have the same effect on ghrelin secretion. Proteins and carbohydrates, for example, produce a slower secretion of ghrelin than the fats, which is why meat and sweets give us the impression of satiety, of fullness, while vegetables and fatty foods makes us add something else aside, more usually bread or pasta to go with them. If you tend to disagree, cut the crap, we've all been there. During diets, the levels of ghrelin increase because the stomach is empty all the time, and for this reason the vast majority of diets will fail due to the constant feeling of hunger, which, as mentioned before, has an important impact, a non-fulfillment impact of anxiety, and lead to what dietitians call cheat meals, meals to cheat on your diet to avoid depression and avoid binge eating, fat and ice cream. To lose weight, well, all you have to do is reduce your ghrelin level. Simple, right? Of course, all men have a small tab below your stomach when they can let off ghrelin when they have too much, right? No. And the story is much longer and more complicated than you can endure in a YouTube video. But wait, it gets even crazier. We've got the stepsister, that bad but also good daughter of hunger, another hormone called leptin. Leptin was discovered in 1994 and secreted by, hold on to it, fat tissue, bacon. Leptin is not all bad in essence, we make it bad. Leptin is in fact the daily report of the fat tissue to the brain on energy reserves. Therefore, when there is more leptin, your brain knows that it has enough reserves and can, not necessarily will, increase energy consumption. I mean, it's the assurance that if you want to go to sports, well boss, you can because you have the reserves, you don't need another pizza just to be sure. Normally, daily nutrition and increased food intake automatically increase the level of circulating leptin and, as we have shown before, decrease the level of ghrelin as the stomach fills. That is a fact. What is definitely false, however, is that the two hormones have any connection other than my bad jokes. They don't. No serious study has managed to show that having too much ghrelin whatsoever means that you have too little leptin and vice versa. If it had been so, fortunately, we would have never been fat and obesity would have been so rare that you would not have heard about it. Think about it like this. Elevated level means that your brain knows the existence of the reserves. Leptin excess means less ghrelin, so the brain does not see any reason to initiate hunger, so that would be excellent, wouldn't it? Well, it would, but unfortunately the two hormones just greet each other on the street and that's all. They don't influence one another, so we can gain weight after a diet without any problem, immediately. Fat life, Sir Lemon, right? Well, wrong. The latest studies in nutrition and metabolism, and when I say the latest I refer to those from the last 10 years or so, have shown that high levels of leptin in our body are associated with weight loss and decreased appetite due to a separate metabolic path than satiety, which is the obvious one, with low ghrelin levels meaning the stomach is full. The most plausible hypothesis related to leptin, and which seems to be the most logical and correct, is that big, fat-rich meals inhibit leptin secretion due to some substances secreted in the guts where food is absorbed. Meals that are high in fat stimulate, if you remember, the secretion of ghrelin, which means that we will be hungry more often and practically will get to eat all the time. Well, it's up to us, to the way that we want to look at our future and our health and retrain these hormones again. The only way to lose weight, as mentioned before, is to reduce your calories intake, normally less food, but to maintain your weight and not slow down your metabolism due to restriction of calories intake, you need to change the way you interact with your body. So how do we train these hormones to be normal again? Simple. No more nonsense eating. A biscuit now, a peanut passing by, an apple because you didn't eat any fruit today, etc. We eat when it's time to eat. And if we're hungry between the meals, remember, we're not hungry. You just have too much ghrelin because you trained your stomach to make too much by eating chaotically. No, you will not get sick to your stomach if you don't eat whenever the hell you're hungry. You will not get an ulcer. You stay calm. If you're 30 kilograms over your normal weight, don't worry, it's not your hunger. The hunger you feel is the cry of the fat cells drying and dying. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, the more we train, the more we do physical activity, the higher our leptin levels will be, because while having an active day, the body needs to know that it has sufficient reserves from which to make more energy. So, to summarize, when you're fat and want to lose weight, leptin, good, ghrelin, evil, motion, yes, eating often, no. Well folks, that's it for today. I want to thank those of you that stayed until the end. I know that not everybody remains until this time. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. I don't mind, and I will definitely not run to the fridge to treat my depression because you disliked my video. I want to thank especially the channel's Patreons. Your contribution helps greatly, and I invite you all, those who can afford, to help the channel exist and grow by making a donation to my Patreon account, link here on the screen and also in the description. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Give this video to another friend of yours on Facebook, Messenger or WhatsApp, and press the bell icon and select the first option to receive notification. That's how you are actually subscribing to any channel on YouTube nowadays. Check it out now, you'll forget about it later. Until next time, I wish you all sunny days, happy holiday, and, well, if you're still on vacation, pizza and barbecues with a measure. My name is Radu, and Radu loves you all. Stay healthy. Bye bye.